I'm Ekow Eshun. I'm the Artistic Director of the ICA and I'm also the Chairman of the Fourth Plinth Commissioning Group. The ICA is a contemporary arts centre. It's based in the centre of London. We show exhibitions, we show films, we stage live music, live performance. And we're a space that's dedicated to asking questions about contemporary culture and trying to show the best and most interesting work from artists of all disciplines.
How do you think it fits in with what else is in Trafalgar Square, though?
One of the great things about the Fourth Plinth project as a whole, but more specifically Antony Gormley's project, is that it has a kind of relationship to the other things that exist in the square. The Trafalgar Square is this very weird place because it's a public place that's been used for demonstrations and marches and all these things, but it's also this very traditional place, most obviously with Nelson's Column, but also with these other three plinths which have statues of dead generals and military leaders and people whose names are no longer in the public consciousness. So you have this site which in many ways could represent the most traditional, the most antique notions of Britishness, of a country that has its value and identity residing in its past rather than its present. So that's one of the ways that Antony is talking to Trafalgar Square and talking to Britain. He's asking about what does it take to reanimate the square? What does it take to reanimate Britishness? And actually, I think his response isn't quite as causal as to say, look, everything around is the past, here I am in the present. I think his answer is to say that all of this exists in a flux all of the time anyway, and that the formal statues that exist in the plinth are only one part, actually, of what occurs within Trafalgar Square. So, on one side we can look at the National Gallery, and the other side, actually, we can look around at all the traffic that spins around Trafalgar Square itself as a roundabout. But more than that, I think we have to look at the people who walk through there every day. I think Antony's project has an interesting relationship with other public art projects. If only because actually he's been one of the people who's responsible for setting the tone for what public art can be in Britain. Most obviously with the Angel of the North, which I think signalled in a particularly powerful way the regenerative possibilities that a public art project can offer to a region, indeed even to a nation as a whole. What is happening with One Another as a project is that this concept of how an art piece can work with the public is being changed. So here we have, with the Fourth Plinth Commission as a whole, we have one of the most important public art projects, I think, in Britain today, as a continuing programme of new commissions. But by changing this from a static thing of here's a statue, here's an icon, to something which is temporary but also performative, we shift, I think, at least in the public realm anyway, some of the ideas of what it means to create public art. And I guess when I say that, I mean that there's lots of public art that can be very, very bad because of the ways that public art is quite often commissioned. It has to fit lots of different interests, and as a consequence there's a pressure for that work to be figurative, to be representational, to be traditional, to really say what it's designed to say, which is somehow to represent the interests of the people who are involved in backing that project. Antony's never done that with his work, but with One Another he's done something else entirely. He's opened up the project to a complete set of unpredictability. No one knows what will happen across the course of 100 days. No one knows really what will happen across the course of 24 hours with 24 different people standing on the plinth. Whether you have exhibitionists, whether you have apologists for one thing or another, whether you have people who are angry, who are sad, who are shy and retiring, any number of things, who are meditative. No one knows. And that's a fascinating thing to do. It's also problematic and threatening to some of the people that want art to stay in a place that exist just as kind of figurative, who want art to be easily figured out, who want somehow, who want a world of landscapes and statues of famous figures. It becomes threatening to do something that's unplanned, to do something that is continuously spontaneous, that cannot be restricted. So one another has a form, i.e. it has a plinth and people who stand on it. After that, everything is open. To date, all of the projects that have taken place on the Fourth Plinth have been sculptures, they've been single installations. Antony's project, in essence, is a performance. And in that respect, it's something that changes every single moment of that day, because it's about living people standing on the plinth, not as living sculptures, but as themselves. Over the course of 100 days, I think what he's hoping to do is create some kind of notion of what Britain looks like, what Britain feels like, by having individual people on the plinth. But more than that, I think having those people occur almost in private within this very public space that's Trafalgar Square, so that you have a conversation, an unpredictable conversation that occurs between the people on the plinth, between the public in the square. That's something I don't think has ever been done before, but it's something which keys into the history of Trafalgar Square as this site of public protest and public celebration, as a site really of publicness. I think London, Britain as a whole, owns Trafalgar Square, and that's something that we can't say about many of the sites that are in this city or even in this country, really. It's a place that I think is central to the voice of the society and the culture, in fact, of Britain as a whole. And so there's a lot of symbolic value to what Antony's doing by putting ordinary people on a plinth, on a pedestal at the heart of London. So on lots and lots of levels, I'm really, really excited by the project, because I think it has a lot to say about who we are and about who Britain is right now.